Good evening. I'd like to call the work session for July 18th, 2017, 6 o'clock p.m. to order. I'd like to welcome all visitors and guests. Thank you for coming. And C.T. Hutchins, will you give the invocation?
Yeah, let's pray. Loving and gracious God, you are indeed the giver of all good gifts, and we thank you today for all your blessings. We ask that you bless us as we continue to seek your wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength. Be with us and help us to be wise in the decisions we make for the good of all those who have placed their trust and confidence in our leadership. All glory be to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, next item is the approval of the agenda. We all have it in front of us. I'd like to entertain a motion. We accept the agenda as submitted.
I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. The first discussion item is Blairsville Eclipse Experience, Union County School update.
This information is just for to bring the board up to speed on where we are on this event. On August 21st, there will be a total solar eclipse, and there's a band of a geographic area that will include Blairsville, Union County, for a significant viewing of that event, which means that we'll have over a minute of total darkness. And so about a year ago, I was contacted by the Chamber of Commerce here to partner with them on that event, and we have done that in terms of basically working with them to get glasses for all of our students. And those have been secured and will be passed out close to the event. And also working with them on our school schedule to make sure that if in fact we have the number of visitors or the amount of traffic that some of the predictions are claiming that we will have, we're going to try to do an early dismissal that day on August 21st, try to have everybody home by noon. All of that hinges on a couple of more meetings that we have to have with emergency management. We've got one of those coming up on Thursday, and if there are any significant changes, we could go from a half a day to a full day. But currently, Towns, Rabun, White, Stevens, and Union all are planning a half-day school on that day, and then the students, parents, whatever, would be in a fairly convenient position to view the eclipse with their children, and we wouldn't have buses out on the road, kids trying to get home. So that's our plan. We are partnering with the Chamber in their event that they are advertising here, only partnering with them from the standpoint of our students receiving the glasses, and also we're allowing them to designate both the stadium and the parking area up over the behind the baseball, softball fields as viewing areas if someone wanted to use that as a viewing area. Other than that, we don't have any financial responsibility or anything else tied up in the event. Towns is having an event that is similar. Rabun is having an event. There are a number of viewing type events, being there's one at Suches, there's going to be, I think, centered around the school up there, and one at Ball Mountain, Bell Mountain, different areas that have been designated. I guess our biggest problem with this whole event has been if you stop someone and say, how many folks can we expect? The first person may say 2,000 and the next may say 20,000. There's a huge variation in the predictions on how many people we will actually see that come into our area that afternoon. we just want to make you aware of what our involvement was, and we're definitely planning on a half a day of school that day, and we will alter that if and only if emergency management recommends that we do so.
Thank you, Dr. Rayfield. The next discussion item on the agenda is cameras and GPS services for school buses, additional information. Stanley Garrett and Bill Driscoll.
Yeah, my partner in crime abandoned me tonight, looks like. So you should have in your packet some of the quotes that we received. We received 3 different quotes when we've been talking to people about this. I also summarized it on just one sheet that's in your packet. Should have just one sheet that just gives you all 3 of the quotes with the price. Dr. Rayfield, you got that too? Yeah. I just want to make sure y'all know this is, these are prices we got based on just talking to the people saying, this is what we're thinking about doing. And I really think that if we get to the point where y'all think this is something we definitely need to do, then once we send this out to a formal bid and have, specific items that they have to do, for the most part, these prices will probably drop a little. Stanley talked to a man from Bluebird Buses this week. He came up and he was pointing out some things that we need to make sure that we include in that bid to make sure that the protocols they use for their communication match the protocol on the computer on the Bluebird buses that we have. So we kind of got that down, and all 3 of these support that. We just got to make sure it's part of our package if we do that. You'll notice you got 2 different costs on here. I've got cost 1 is if we have bus cameras that communicate back when the bus comes back to the bus garage through a wireless network, and it can download video and GPS and all that information. Cost 2 is if we wanted to make it to where you could see that information live from the bus while it's going down the road. Now, y'all can decide which way y'all would rather go. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the cellular part of it and looking at it live going down the road. Mainly because I'm not sure how many times we'd use it, and every bus would have a cellular connection with a data plan. So every bus would cost about $450 a year in cell phone bills times 40 buses. So you're looking at like $16,000 a year in cell phone costs ongoing year after year.
I'm wrong, but there's a lot of places that buses go that there aren't signals coming.
Oh yeah,
That's correct.
Yeah. So there are places in the county that's not going to work anyway.
But
All of this data is recorded, and if we didn't have the cellular link, when the bus gets back here, you can download all the data anyway.
we can still bring the bus in at the end of the route if we receive a phone call that says this bus was speeding, and here's the time I saw them speeding and the location. When they come back in, we still have that data.
Yeah.
It's just not real time. This $18,000 reoccurring cost on the cell charge is something that we're just not comfortable that we get our money out of our investment that way.
Yep.
Okay, if the bus broke down, then we would still be able to see where it was through GPS, correct?
Not with the version that doesn't have cellular, no. If the bus broke down, the way it is now, they just get on the radio and call Stanley. Because, if they're in the county, then the bus radio works. If they're outside of the county, they take a school cell phone with them anyway.
Is there any way else on one that's not live to, when they come in, is there any way for it to have an alert system that would alert Stanley, say, without him having to pry into, is there a way we could have it alert?
Yeah.
And let him know that,
Yeah,
hey, that driver wasn't doing what
right.
he
He
was
just
supposed
wouldn't
to
get
do.
the alert until the bus got back on campus.
But he would get an alert that he would have to search for, and it would fall in his lap, basically.
Right, right.
Because without it falling in his lap, it's not worth anything.
Yeah, these are going to monitor things like, because it plugs right into the computer that the bus has, So it'll let you do things like, you can be watching a video of what's going on, and at the same time on another window, see what the RPMs of the bus was, whether the driver had the brakes on, whether the lights were on or not. All those things about the bus are synced with the video. So you can tell exactly what's happening, what the bus driver's doing, everything.
See, I have a live one, but I don't have near as many vehicles.
Right.
My drivers, and it will send me instantaneous alerts if they brake too fast, accelerate too fast, take curves too fast, if they're breaking the speed limit. And it works pretty well. I know there are areas that doesn't have cell coverage, but for the most part, it works pretty well.
Yeah.
And it has really changed the way people drive our vehicles.
Yeah.
And that's why I was asking you if that was something that this family didn't have to search for to find out.
Yeah, we can set up events that, you know, if the RPMs exceed something or, you know, different, anything in the bus, whether it's, you know, if the brakes were applied too hard, because it has a accelerometer built into the thing, the GPS does, so it knows how fast it stops and how fast it starts.
So basically what you're concerned with is breaking the speed limit, and taking curves and stuff too fast.
Right. So what I was trying to, you know, I just want to make sure y'all knew kind of what cost area we're looking at. And if this is something y'all definitely want to do, then we can come up with a formal bid and send it out. Now, one thing down the road too, just so you know, all three of these companies work with bus companies in the state of Georgia. And so if we picked one of these three companies, and then you ordered a bus, say next year, you ordered a bus, we can order the bus with this equipment in the bus. And the nice thing about that is, since it's installed by the manufacturer, it becomes part of the warranty on the bus. So from here on out, once you had one of these systems, every bus you bought, you just get it with that built into it.
So the need for GPS would be moot with even cost number one, right? I mean, you're gonna get the same data.
Yeah, same data. The only difference between the two costs is whether you get it when the bus gets back here or whether you get it while the bus is still on the road. That's the only difference.
That's a lot of money every year, though.
It's an ongoing cost that, you know.
I actually think that the cost one would be fine based off the fact that you get the data, that he would be alarmed to look at it.
Right.
If he wasn't alarmed to look at it, I don't think that would be worth the money because
Right.
he would have to go through and search out how many routes we got, 40 routes.
Well, you got
today.
40, yeah, you got 40
About
buses.
every day to see if anybody's doing something they shouldn't do.
Yeah, yeah,
If he gets an alarm,
that'd be terrible.
you know, and he knows to go look, I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think we could set alerts very similarly to the way that we, in some ways, to the way we set up alerts in our student information system.
Yeah, yeah.
If it
It's
triggers
really-
a certain thing, it
Yeah, it's
pops
really,
up.
it's just a computer
The basic
setup.
thing you're concerned with speeding and driving, you know, and cornering and things of that nature. You're not really worried about a lot of things, but that's the things that matter.
Right.
Get somebody hurt.
I think everybody is in agreement. We'd like to get a bid for cost
Okay.
one,
Okay,
see what it would cost after the bid.
right. We will do that.
Next item is executive session. We will move into executive session, discuss personnel issues. No decisions will be voted on until we come back into open session. I'd like to entertain a motion that we exit regular session and go into executive session.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Okay, I would like to entertain a motion that we close the work session. Excuse me, first to close the executive session and go back into the work session.
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor? And now I'd like to entertain a motion that we close the work session.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Now, good afternoon. I'd like to call the July 18th, 7 p.m. Union County Board of Education monthly meeting to order. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all visitors and guests. Thank you for coming and participating. The next item on our agenda is I would like to entertain a motion that we approve the agenda with the following changes. The approval of the minutes, we need to break down from the June 20th and the July 6th, and also delete the executive session. I'd like to entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor? Okay. Okay, everyone was sent the June 20th minutes. I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept the minutes that were emailed to us.
I'll make a motion, we approve the June meeting minutes as presented.
Second?
All in favor? The second meeting, we had a called meeting, which was July 6th. Everyone received those. Anybody have any questions, changes? Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion, we accept the July 6th minutes as submitted.
I'll make the motion. Second?
All in favor? Any abstain? Okay. The next item is recognitions. Union County High School TSA STEM.
Madam Chairman, we are extremely pleased to be able to recognize another group of high-achieving students this month. We had a group of students from Union County High School representing our TSA STEM group to go to national competition this summer and come back as national champions. So we'd like to call on Mr. C.T. Hushin to come up, and we'll begin to get set up for our presentation. I think this is another really good example of some of the programs that have been implemented over the course of the past couple of years, that when students truly come in and take advantage of the benefits of those programs, we end up being able to take trips like that, compete on a national stage, and come back first place in national competition. So our hats off to you. Congratulations also to Ms. Frizzell and Dr. Bridges. Lots of hard work getting those students there, raising the money to go on the trip, and then making sure that obviously the students were extremely well prepared for their competition. So that didn't happen overnight, so thank you for that as well.
All right.
Now, I think Mr. Hushin has used his outstanding technological abilities to bring you a clip from that competition.
And actually, we had this sent to us. The whole clip is about an hour and 20 minutes long, but I have it queued up to when they announced the third, second, and then first place. This is a lot of kids. There's nationwide. You'll see that second place from Alabama, or from California, third place from Alabama. So pretty good thing. I'm going to show that prior to bringing them up, if that's okay. They'll like it. They've never seen it yet, so they want to see it up here.
Can y'all see it, or do you
Can
want
you
to
see
move
it, or?
closer?
You good? They have got it.
And now for your top three. For 9-10 written, in third place, from Connecticut, Glastonbury High School, Team 1. Your 9-10 written essay runner-up, from California, Palo Alto High School, Team 1. Your 9-10 written champion for 2017, from Georgia, Union County High School, Team 1.
Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Stephen Williams.
Stephen and Brian.
Derek Harwood. I'm going to call their names anyway. Brian Williams. Will Harkins. Thomas Mellendorf, Andrew Walker. Sarah Cook. Evelyn McBride. Madison Yost. She's a pretty good worker at the front office, don't you? And our two sponsors and coaches, Dr. Melissa Bridges and Alicia Frizzell. Nice job. Let's give this group a round of applause.
Take a picture where y'all are. And just go sit a little more. And then hold your, y'all two in there, maybe. Y'all come. One on each side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Anybody else want to take a picture?
Make sure all the moms got what they did.
That's most of it.
Very awesome.
Great job, thank you. Sorry to call you back to school before your summer was over.
The next item on the agenda is the action item, sick leave bank update. Dr. Rayfield?
I will let Ms. Barber share if there's anything special there. Basically, you see our sick leave membership is 371 employees with a balance of 223 days. That has to be reported to you for a sick bank policy on an annual basis.
Do we need to vote on that? Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept the sick leave bank as submitted.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? The next item on the agenda is student petition for graduation.
The AEP program, Ms. Donaldson submitted the appropriate paperwork and requirements for Cameron Hughes to receive early graduation status per the board rule that allows that. They're not here tonight at the board meeting. We will recognize that student in August at a ceremony at the alternative school campus. But it's for Cameron Hughes, and I've reviewed the requirements and her paperwork, and she has satisfied all those requirements requiring your approval.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept Cameron Hughes' petition for graduation.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Family Connections Council on Alcohol and Drug Contract.
We serve as the physical agent for Family Connection and their grant funds. I know that Katie is with us. Let her share her report with you.
Well, first of all, I want to backtrack just a little bit. Unfortunately, I was out of town. Well, fortunately for me, but I did not get to attend last month's meeting with the Family Connection contract. The state contract was on the agenda, so I wanted to make sure that there's no questions or any information I could provide for you about that funding. Okay, and then I think that you've had a chance to review the contract for the alcohol and drug grant that we received. I want to give you just a little bit of background on that, and then of course I'm open to questions if you have any questions on that. This is a grant that we have received for about 15 years in different formats. We've received that from the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. We are now subcontracting under Council of Alcohol and Drug. In the past, we have used this funding to support our mentor program. Unfortunately, the state has decided that rather than concentrate on individuals who are part of like a mentoring program or a program like that, that they would like to see those funds go towards more environmental change. So they want us to focus more on alcohol use among our teenagers and changing the rates of that. So they've asked us to do more of an environmental, something that affects the entire student population, not the 45 to 85 students that we've had in the mentor program in the past. So that leaves us without funding for our mentor program, but it does give us funding to go in a different direction. So we are doing what is required of us for that, and we are looking to do some training to get prepared for that this year. Because of some glitches that happened at the state level with the last round of grant funding. This is actually a grant that normally comes out in October, but because of those glitches, we did not receive our funding until, we actually won't receive it until after it's voted on tonight. So we're kind of behind the game as far as getting the money to do the work. We've been doing the work for 9 months without funding, but we are looking forward to receiving that again. And kind of catching up with what they are asking us to do. So that was out of our hands, red tape issue that no one could do anything about. We were just waiting on the state, so I know you know what that's like. I do want to give you a little bit of background. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I wanted to give you an update about our mentor program from last year, what we previously had funded with this. Last year we served 48 students in the program, and we had our first student at the as young as the pre-K age. So we had students as young as pre-K and as old as the 11th grade enrolled in that program. And we had about 45 mentors. Some of our mentors served more than one student, so we always are appreciative to them. We always do some reports at the end of the year. We want to make sure that this program is working, that it is something that the students still need. So I want to give you just a couple of facts there. In our program last year, of those 48 students, 47.5% of the students improved their attendance over the year before. So mentoring could be one of those things that helps them, even if it's that one day that they see their mentor, that they're more likely to come to school that day. So that improved. 63.4% of the students increased their grades. So you're talking about moving up a grade where typically the work gets harder. 63.4% worked on their grades. They had a mentor who was influential in that, who helped support them, helped them work on work at times, and just let them know that they were there and that they could do that work. And 72.5% of the students either had a 0 discipline referrals or improved their discipline from the year before. So to me, that's an amazing number. Either they had no reports of discipline or it went down from the year before. So we see that programs like this do impact those students. They do make a difference for them. They improve all of those things. Like I said, we're going to be moving more of an environmental change now. We're going to be changing the way that we're thinking about how we deal with students who need these things. And so we're looking forward to something new, bringing that to the school. Does anyone have any questions, anything I can answer for you about that contract? We're always happy to get money, so. Okay. And then if you could indulge me for just a minute, I have to brag just a little bit. Because I wasn't able to attend last month, I wanted to give you just a little bit of an update on our Family Connection services as well. That's one of the things at the region and state level that they tell us that we're not very good at. We don't always go back and tell people about the work that we've done. So I want to tell you just a little bit about that. If you'll see there in front of you, you have some information that I've provided for you. If you'll take a look at that first page, this tells about our emergency fund. This is the money that is donated by people in the community so that we can serve the students in various ways. The emergency fund last year, the largest portion of that went towards utilities. So these are things like power and water for those people who just are having a hard time making ends meet. This is not something that we do every month for a family. They don't come to depend on that. If they call month after month, we start looking at what's the bigger picture here. If you're calling me, and we do talk to other agencies, if you're calling other agencies in town, you need something more than a handout. So we start looking at how can we help you change that. It's not just, oh, they're gonna give me money, after, time after time. The next portion of that was the medical and dental things, and these are for students who are having a hard time. Maybe they're without insurance at the time. They need to go down to the health department to have, their teeth checked out. So we may at times help with things like that, going to the doctor, make sure that they can afford that, because we all know if they can't get well and they can't function as far as coming to school and being well, then their grades are gonna go down. They're not going to be able to be here to get those grades, and into the future, graduating on time can be impacted. So we want to help with those things, helping them get that taken care of. Then the next one is shoes and clothes. I won't go over every one of these. You can look at the chart there, but those are just some different things that we try to help take care of. I have a car on there. Those are things like a car part for a family who can't get their child to school without their car running. So we've helped pay for, car repair, different things like that. Have graduation on there. That is graduation fees for students who can't afford their cap and gown. Okay, well, they've gotten to this point, they've made it, they're going to graduate, but to be able to walk and to get out there and get that last step taken care of, they can't afford what they need to do it. So Family Connection tries to help with needs such as that. So those are a lot of the things that, we have various requests. Sometimes it's, something very small. We work closely with other agencies. We work closely with DFACs. It can make that difference when they're working with a parent who has a case plan with them and they need to, be able to complete their case plan. They don't have everything they need. Sometimes DFACs will call us and ask us to step in. Can you help with this family? We're looking at the difference between this child going home and them not going home with their mom and dad. So can you help us? So we want to be there. We want to help with those types of needs. The emergency fund, that is an estimated number of 266 students that we in some way helped with something there. And let's see here. Our total amount that we spent last year was $8,444, and our donations or funding that we received from the community was $10,994. So we brought that much in, but I always try to say, it's great. It's great we raised up almost $11,000, but if it sits there and we don't do anything with that money, we don't help anyone with that money, there's no point. So we want to put it back into use, put it back into the community. But we go into the school year with a little bit of a cushion there so that we can start off and we can help those students. Any questions about the emergency fund or how we raise funds there?
How successful has the Proposity been?
That is something I wanted to talk about a little bit too. In my next chart there on the community donations, we'll talk about Proposity. I brought that before the board, I believe it was in January or February of last year. We started mid-year with Proposity. If you don't know what that is, it is a program that the school was able to, Family Connection was able to begin, that sends a text out to people so that they know and are aware of student needs such as shoes, clothes, different things like that. It's a once-a-week text. And last year we were able to have 42 needs that were met for students for clothing and shoes and that type of thing. It was an average of about $26 per need. And it was $1,091 that we were able to use for Proposity, where a person in the community bought that, shipped it to Family Connection, and we were able to give it to the student or the parent. and we didn't have to pull that money out of our emergency fund. So that gives us more money that we can turn around and use for things you can't buy through Amazon, like power and water. So Porposity was a success, and we'll be starting up again when school starts. Just a few other things. I'll try to run through these quickly. I don't want to take up too much of your time. On that chart, you'll see we have a large portion there in blue. Community donations went towards Christmas gifts and food. It's over $70,000 for Christmas gifts and food buckets that 531 children received last year. And I've had people say, why do you put so much into that? Why is there so much there? What does that have to do with education? It doesn't directly have that impact like food, providing the food bags to children or something like that, or school supplies, but it reaches those parents who won't come for open house, who won't come to meet your teacher, who won't come for a parent conference, but they will come and pick up a Christmas gift for their child. So if that's the only time that they step foot at the school, a place where sometimes they're intimidated, they don't feel comfortable in, this helps them feel a little bit more connected to the school and find a resource and someone that's willing to listen to them, someone that's willing to help. So it helps those students with morale so that they can feel like I'm the same as everybody else in my class. That's our goal with that, is to connect them to the school. Goodies from the Heart, our weekend food program, served about 200 students each week, and spent around $20,000 so that they could have a bag of food to take home with them when they did not have a free or reduced lunch available at school. They would have that for the weekend. The Backpack to School Bash last year was the first one. We wanted to, kind of start out slow. Let's see how this goes. We had about 269 students that were served with that, with an average of $25 worth of school supplies that they received. When you have 4 or 5 children in school, that $25 makes a huge difference to you when you start multiplying that. It was about $6,725 worth of school supplies that helped them learn. And we all know that if the parents aren't able to buy it, the school's not able to provide it, the teacher is paying for that out of their pocket. So this helps them. We have an office, a space set up in our next to our office there where they can come in. We'll deliver to them. It's there all year long. There's notebooks, there's folders. When the binder breaks at mid-year or the backpack tears up and they need another one, it's there so that we'll get it to them. This year, I know that we have the sign on the doors you walked in tonight. We're looking to serve 400 students this year to help provide backpacks, and that is for Union County and Woody Gap students, any student who needs that. We also had 65 families who received a donated food card, so that was an average of $40 in groceries. Again, that goes to help prevent those hungry students. You can't learn if you're hungry. Kid Care, our clothing program, I have to brag on the Kiwanis. They're an excellent resource for us. Every time that we call them and we say we have a student who's in need of clothing, they're there for us. And we had 32 students who received an average cost of $75 worth of clothing. We've also had some other miscellaneous items that were donated at an approximate cost of $2,000. Those are things like hygiene products, lice treatment kits, recycled clothing. We had Sean's Home Furnishings here in town donated a brand new bed and mattress for a family. I had a volunteer who picked that up, delivered it to the family, and just helped us out in that way. I mentioned Porposity earlier. We also had about 50 coats that were donated from the community for an average cost of about $1,000 worth of coats. So overall, I know that's a lot of numbers to throw at you, but overall our community donations were $105,791 approximately. And there's some things that you can't put a money value on, like those students feeling like they belong, like them not being hungry. But those are community donations that help them so that they are less distracted, they're not hungry, And it just meets those basic needs that they have, and it helps to form relationships with the families and the parents of some of the least involved, so that they are more willing to open up to the school. Like I said, I know that's a lot of information, but we are proud of the work that we do. I enjoy my job. I look forward to coming to it. And I love it. I could stand here and talk about it all night, but I won't do that. But we're proud of our work and the relationships that we build in the community. Very much.
Dr. Rafa, I have a question about the contract itself. We talked last month about the middle school drug testing policy. We implemented that. And there was a discussion about the employee drug testing that I guess the school attorneys did not recommend that we go into that. But I noticed that there's some provisions in this contract that we're certifying we're a drug-free workplace, or at least with respect to some of those employees. So how are we segregating those employees separate from the other employees?
I'm the physical agent for that.
I believe that's referring to Family Connection employees or anyone who would be dealing or working for that contract, so that we are subject to drug testing. Because of it being the Council of Alcohol and Drugs, that is a requirement for them.
So we're not, the Union County Board of Education as the subcontractor is not, I mean, the contract asks us to certify that we're a drug-free workplace. We are not undertaking that, right?
No, we have not. We're glad to have it reviewed by our attorneys. That's the pleasure of the board.
Is this contract different from the previous ones that we've had in the past?
No, ma'am, not that I'm aware of.
And the next question I have, Ms. Jones, is the wording in this contract is what's required by the state to qualify, correct?
Yes.
Does anyone
The
else?
contract would vary, only funding amount does not vary, only in the deliverables that we are asked to provide, as far as going more in the direction of reducing alcohol use instead of a mentoring program.
Does anyone else have any questions or concerns on the contract? I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept the Family Connections Council on the alcohol and drug contract as submitted.
I'll make that motion. Second.
All in favor? And it's unanimous. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Union and Towns contract for alternative education services.
Yes, Madam Chairman, that is the annual contract that we offer to Towns County to serve both alternative education students for Union and Towns County. It is a contract for Towns to pay us $25,000 for the year. Last year we served 72 Union County students and 9 Towns County students in the program, and we expect for those numbers to be similar again this year. I made verbal contact with the superintendent in Towns County, and we've agreed to leave the terms of the contract the same, pending the approval of both boards of education.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns in reference to the Union and Towns contract? I'd like to entertain a motion. We accept the contract for the Towns Union Alternative Education Services as submitted.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, it passes. The next item on the agenda is recommend final approval of school governance team handbook revisions.
This is the second reading or second time these have been on the agenda because they had to lay on the table for 30 days for review. Nothing has changed since they were initially submitted and presented to you 60 days ago in the board meeting. Most of the changes are related to changes in officers, how officers are selected and elected. But you have a copy of all those changes, should be attached to your agenda, and they remain the same. We haven't made any additional changes or edits to that.
Okay. We all got this ahead of time. Are there any concerns, questions in reference to the handbook? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion. We accept the school governance team handbook revisions as submitted. A second?
A second.
All in favor? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the financial report for May 2017.
You received this information again ahead of time. I think it is important to note that most of the areas of concern were cleared up in terms of getting the percentages right as the money started to flow toward the end of the year. And everything seems to be in order, and we end in the fund balance in very good shape. Also, I think as you look at the SPLOST report, very consistent and even trending upward, which is a very positive sign. But I've reviewed those documents that Barbara submitted and believe them to be correct.
Make a motion, we approve the financial report.
I've got a question first.
I'm sorry.
On the bank balance, May 31st, the 2.6, that is for the SPLOST, correct? Okay. Is that also in the total on the previous document? Go back up. They are two separate, so it'd be added together. Okay. And there was one other thing I had a question on. Okay, you answered it on the thing. Okay, so anybody else have any questions or anything? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion. We accept the financial report for May 2017 as submitted.
I'll make a motion, we approve the financial reports.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. The next item, action item on the agenda is to set the tentative millage rate for 2018.
As the board knows, we have to, once we receive the digest, we have to come to you and recommend a tentative millage rate that must set on the table for a minimum of 30 days. And then we can come back to you at the August meeting to recommend the final approval of the millage rate. I think as you look at this, the data that we've provided, it's the first time in a while that we've had a good increase in the digest, which puts us in a positive position so that we might be able to recommend a millage rate to you that is a rollback from the rate that we are currently under. Last year was 11.787. We would recommend that we take the rollback rate of 11.780, which is actually a reduction in the millage rate. That would be our proposed millage rate to lay on the table.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on the millage rate that was submitted?
We also have to satisfy the advertisement requirements of advertising the 5-year history of the digest, which will take place after we put the tentative millage rate on the table.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept the tentative millage rate as submitted.
So,
And a second?
second.
All in favor? Okay, the next item on our agenda with the executive session removed is personnel recommendations. Everyone got this and has had time to review it. Can we take them all as a whole, or do you want them individually?
As a whole.
As a whole, everyone okay with that? Thank you. Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion. We accept the personnel recommendations, the new hires approve the position changes, separation, and personnel additional responsibilities as submitted.
Make that motion. I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, and I'd like to entertain a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? And thank you so much for coming tonight.